We're gonna take a trip right now. Like we always do about this time.
This is a journey into sound. Break it down.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. On this week's show, I'll speak with the Bloomington, Indiana-based musician, Jermaine Butler. Jermaine was born in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and raised in Baton Rouge. He came to Bloomington, Indiana in 2015 to study music and language at Indiana University. There's no easy way to describe Jermaine's work in music. He rose to prominence playing drums with the psychedelic rock band Moon Honey. He plays oud with the Bloomington Silk Road Ensemble. He's toured around the world as a bassist for the British rock star Barns Courtney. And his debut album, titled The South, features a collection of soulful hip-hop beats. While it's difficult to pin Jermaine down musically, it's clear he's on the precipice of a major career breakout. A video he submitted this year for NPR's Tiny Desk contest was highlighted in Tiny Desk's Top Shelf series, and the video was praised by Tiny Desk producer Bobby Carter and guest judge Tierra Whack. And Jermaine will be launching a new project soon, rapping in Louisiana Creole. Jermaine will join me in a moment. But first, let's hear a track from his debut album, The South. This is Tired.
You're getting very
That was the multi-instrumentalist Jermaine Butler, also known as Jermaine from the South, with Tired, off his debut album, The South. And Jermaine is my guest this week. Let's join our conversation. Jermaine, thank you so much for taking time to speak to our listeners here in Indiana. I sincerely appreciate it. Yeah.
Always appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, I was blown away when I first heard your music. It just... I was speechless. It just, your sound contains multitudes of influences and styles. It was just kind of overwhelming to sit and digest. So I'm really
appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm grateful to learn more about your work.
Yeah, that's a huge compliment.
Yeah, you play bass, you play guitar, you play oud, you play percussion, you do hip hop production, right?
Right. Yeah. I know all these little things. I guess whenever you start naming them, now I was like, wow, I guess I do some things. In my mind, I'm just like, in my mind, people are like, what do you do? I was like, I'm a musician. You know, I was like, I play music, but I guess, you could chop it up into, all different sort of little things.
And I know you've played with many different ensembles, from Moon Honey to Barns Courtney to the Bloomington Silk Road Ensemble. And I'm going to ask you about some of that later. But first, I just wanted to get a little bit of information about your background. From what I know, you grew up in both Lake Charles and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell us about life there growing up.
Yeah, so I was born in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and then spent the first, 9 or 10 years of my life there. And then whenever I was in third grade, we moved to Baton Rouge. My dad got a job out there. But he was also, before that, he was doing his master's out there at Southern University in chemistry. Go Jaguars. And so, we moved out there. I felt like my life definitely changed completely. Because it was, a little bit of a culture shock, just because Lake Charles that's such a tiny town. It's just very small. And at that moment in my life, whenever I was that young, my entire world was just kind of Black and Catholic. Like I went to a Catholic school, Sacred Heart. The apartment complex that we lived in, Cypress, it was just like, pretty much an all Black apartment complex. And so, yeah, I can't remember if I mentioned, but yeah, the school Sacred Heart was an all Black Catholic school. So like that was just like, my entire existence was that. But then when we moved to Baton Rouge, my parents, the closest schools to my house, there are the closest Catholic schools. There are two different schools. One of them was a lot more diverse, which is actually where my little brother ended up going. And that one was more like, I'd say a three-way split between like Black people, white people, and Vietnamese people. And then the other one was like 100% white. And that happened to be the one that accepted me first. And so like I feel like that it definitely changed the trajectory of my life going there. But it was cool, like really cool experience. Definitely got into like a lot of music that I wouldn't have normally have gotten into probably if I were in like a different sort of scenario. But still, like the neighborhood that we're in, it was like predominantly Black neighborhood. We still had cousins that lived with us. So it's it's sort of my intro into sort of two different worlds, I guess. But it was great. Like I love Louisiana. I miss it all the time. I've been up here in Indiana for a little while now. Mainly I came here for grad school, but I visit like really often. Usually I'm there like every other month, especially like now since the music has taken a much more Louisiana centric turn. I plan on being back there a lot more when I can, I really just want to get the Creole Renaissance popping off. So I've been telling my friends. And so like I want to like work with a lot of my friends who are musicians out there who like maybe don't make music in Creole. This is just like little plans I have moving forward. And just really start like pushing it a little bit, give the Cajun people a run for their money. Be like, hey, don't forget, Pabli nous autres, don't forget about us, the Creoles down here too.
Yeah, I want to ask you more about that later. You mentioned that you came to Bloomington for a master's degree, right? I believe you have a master's degree in Middle Eastern languages and culture. You are also, maybe not currently, but a PhD candidate, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your life in Bloomington and how long have you been living in Bloomington? It's been a few years, right?
Oh my God, it's been so long. I came here in 2015. And so I came here because Indiana has an incredible Arabic program. They have all their language programs are incredible. I had no idea. But one of my professors back in Louisiana, she was like, you should apply here. So I was just like, all right. So like, maybe let me go do Bloomington. And I'm glad I did. Like, I love Bloomington. Such a nice little town. It's so easy to get around just, with my bike and everything. I never had that in Louisiana. But yeah, so I came here, I did my master's in Middle Eastern languages and cultures. I think I did like 95% of a master's in Central Eurasian studies as well. That was for Persian mainly, but I did not want to write the master's thesis. So I just never finished that one. And then I continued on to do a PhD in Middle Eastern languages and cultures. But at the same time, I also joined the folklore and ethnomusicology program. So I was doing a dual PhD in them. And at this moment in time, I am still technically a doctoral candidate in both of those departments. So yeah, but me and my advisor, we talk. We know where my life is going right now. And like after I finished my qualifying exams, I was just kind of over school. I needed something different. I really wanted to get back into music. And so yeah, I've been just doing that full time for the past like 2 years or so now. I think it was about 2 years ago, actually, to the month that I took my qualifying exams. And it's been great trying to keep the dream alive.
I want to talk about some of your early music influences. Today, the music you're making is very soulful, very funky, but it wasn't Larry Graham or Bootsy Collins that inspired you to pick up the bass. I understand you were a teenage metalhead and listened to Limp Bizkit and Korn, and it was Metallica's Cliff Burton and Les Claypool of Primus that really drove your interest in the bass. Is that right?
100% correct.
Tell me about that.
Especially, first of all, I gotta say rest in peace, Sam Rivers, bass player for Limp Bizkit. He died a few months ago. That was a huge shock for me, huge hit. I feel like the next day I was just in here playing all the old Limp Bizkit bass lines that I learned whenever I was a kid. By the time middle school started, it was all Limp Bizkit. It was all Korn. It was all Deftones. It's still all Deftones. It was definitely a lot of Metallica. My guy Cliff Burton. I think whenever I got their album Kill 'Em All, and I heard he had a bass solo on there called Pulling Teeth, and like I heard that, and I was like, bro, I gotta get a bass. The music from that time period, especially just being in my room all day, just playing video games and learning every Red Hot Chili Peppers bass line, every Deftones bass line, as much Primus as I could, even though it was like super difficult at the time. So many Tool bass lines. A lot of that like formed the nucleus for, I think, like how I think of bass today. Just like a lot of like really melodic stuff, but also still like you got to bring that low end in there too.
We'll return to my conversation with Jermaine Butler in a moment. But first, let's hear another track off his album, The South. This is I Laughed With You, featuring Chloe. That was the multi-instrumentalist Jermaine Butler, also known as Jermaine from the South, with the track I Laughed With You off his debut album titled The South. And Jermaine is my guest this week. Let's return to our conversation. And Jermaine, I think it's fair to say you kind of rose to prominence with the band Moonhoney, who explore themes of psychedelic rock in their work. It seems like that psychedelic influence has remained with you. You know, it's definitely audible on your debut album, The South. Tell me a little bit about the influence of psychedelic music on your work.
Yeah, so as far as like the psychedelic stuff goes, I think that honestly started like a little bit, maybe like 8th or 9th grade, like a little bit after I got into like all my new metal stuff back in the day. Whenever friends of mine started getting into like Pink Floyd and stuff like that, I still remember, like, I know it's so cliche, but like I still remember hearing Dark Side of the Moon for the first time and just being like, bro, like, this is I was like, what is this? Like, it's, I don't know, it's just so, it seemed perfect to me. And I don't even know if you would, I mean, maybe you could call that psychedelic, because I feel like there's like, you know, psychedelic rock, like, you know, stuff that like, I don't know, Iron Butterfly
or
and like
early
sort of
Pink
those,
Floyd, yeah,
exactly, or early you know, like Hyper at the Gates of Dawn, and stuff like, which honestly is not the Syd Barrett era of Pink Floyd. It's not my favorite. I got a lot of friends that, you know, they'll love to see Emily play, or like, I've got a bike, you can ride it, you like. It's got a basket, you know, like people who like, and I get that, like, it's cool, I love that and stuff, but really the Pink Floyd stuff didn't really hit for me until like whenever metal came out with like their track Echoes on there and all that. Of course, like whenever watching the Pink Floyd Live at Pompeii DVD whenever I was a kid, another felt like, you know, life-changing experience in music. So I guess like maybe more so even than psychedelic rock, I would say like 1970s prog rock, but sort of like the psychedelic elements from that, because Pink Floyd was a huge influence, yes, more so than any other band. Like, yes, his albums in the early 70s, Fragile, Close to the Edge, oh my God. All of those. And just, those were the first time I was like, really hearing synthesizers, just kind of like the older analog synthesizers, and just sort of like the sounds that they can make, and sort of like these really just dreamy soundscapes that just seemed, extraterrestrial, or just like, underwater, subterranean, and just like, I don't know, things that you wouldn't normally hear like on the radio. That's like an element that like I really wanted to incorporate into my music, especially because like I really got into synthesizers a lot later in my life, and all my friends who know me, they know that like I'm constantly trying to get just like some nice analog synthesizers, and I'm always looking for like a nice new sound to put into my stuff. And so yeah, it's an element that I want to be there because I'm just not hearing enough of that in hip hop. I feel like maybe in some like, some more underground stuff, and definitely like, my two North Stars of producers, J Dilla and Madlib, they definitely have those psychedelic elements, which like, I love to incorporate. And so, yeah, just trying to push that, moving forward, just to sort of make it a little weird. I always got to remind myself, like, you can always be weirder.
What's the MF It's your boy A-Day, presenting you my little cousin's album, The South. As for me, I'm representing that Bloomington Silk, Lake Charles, Louisiana, a better known as the bottom. We're gonna take you on a tour from the flats to Baton Rouge.
And Jermaine, another facet of your musical expression I want to ask you about is your work on the oud, which is a string instrument used all over North Africa, the Middle East, the Mediterranean. The oud is featured on your album, The South, I believe. You also have performed on the oud with the Bloomington Silk Road Ensemble.
Yeah, so I started playing the oud. I did a short study abroad in Morocco during my undergrad. It was like a summer-long scenario, an Arabic study abroad there. And so that's whenever I bought my first one. It was like super cheap. I just found it somewhere in some shop. I was just like, I gotta have this. So I bought that and I brought it back home with me. It was almost unplayable. And it sat like in the corner of my room for like probably a year or two until a friend of mine, they used to work at this Middle Eastern restaurant back in Baton Rouge called Acha Bakery. But they had an Iraqi guy who had started working there, and he played oud and nai and like a few different instruments. And so a friend of mine who was still working there, he was like, hey, Subhi, he plays oud, like he could help you out. So I hooked up with him, got some lessons, which like really helped me out a lot. And so that started like that whole journey of playing oud. And then whenever I moved here to Bloomington, especially since I was in the Arabic program and also the Persian program, the Persian professor here was the guy named Shahyar Danishgah. He is the director of the Bloomington Silk Road Ensemble. So whenever he heard that I played oud, he's like, oh, we gotta get you in the ensemble. I was just like, I don't know if I'm good enough for all that. Like, I play a little bit, like I'm fine, but I don't know. He's like, no, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So he really pushed me into that, and that's honestly how I got more of an exposure just to that repertoire of Persian music, Central Eurasian music, even some more like Arabic music as well. And when I really just started, practicing a lot more and things like that. So I've always got the oud. It's here, just to play around with a little bit. I love the instrument. I love the sound of it. It's really fun to write music on. Honestly, too, for me, because like back in Louisiana, we do have a really strong Middle Eastern community that have been there for so long. Lebanese people, so many Palestinian people. It's sort of like this hidden ingredient, I feel like, in the gumbo of Louisiana. Another thing, too, this is important, because on that first album that I released, I have a song called Lebanese Tea, which was invented in Louisiana, in New Orleans. You cannot find Lebanese tea anywhere else in the world. Maybe you can now. But I remember going to a Lebanese restaurant in another place. I asked for Lebanese tea. They were like, what is that? And it was after the fact that I found out that it was actually made in New Orleans for the first time, and so it just sort of spread throughout Louisiana. And so it's, something that's very specific to us, which I love. I love that, which is one of the reasons I wanted to name that song Lebanese Tea. For the people, it's kind of like, if you know, you know.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. My guest this week is Jermaine Butler, also known as Jermaine from the South. Let's listen to the track Lebanese Tea off his debut album, The South. I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. My guest this week is the Bloomington, Indiana-based musician Jermaine Butler, also known as Jermaine from the South. Jermaine is a multi-instrumentalist and beat maker. He plays bass, oud, percussion, and he's preparing to launch a new project, rapping in Louisiana Creole. Jermaine has played with artists including Barns Courtney, Moon Honey, and the Bloomington Silk Road Ensemble. And his music has been praised by NPR. His entry into the 2026 Tiny Desk contest was highlighted in Tiny Desk's Top Shelf series. The video was praised by Tiny Desk producer Bobby Carter and guest judge Tierra Whack.
Sick.
Yeah,
so fire.
Yeah.
So fire.
Jermaine
from the South. His voice is just like, it's so powerful. Like you can feel he's just grounded.
The song is called Dime Bassi. Okay.
Dime Bassi. Sick. I love him.
We'll hear that track now. This is Jermaine from the South with Vi-Çila.
Mais l'idée qu'on est marché en bas, les l'aider, la poupée, mon DJ, barrette. Jouer, ça s'est passé. Mes mots se sont chauds d'été, salaillés, et c'est vrai. Mon père d'état qui change à la fin, mais en moins. Si dans mon petit bec, côté moins dans là, démontrez-moi. Vous paguez longtemps, mon pana. Dans là, démontrez-moi. Vous paguez longtemps, mon pana. Dans là, démontrez-moi. Vous paguez longtemps, mon pana.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. That was the multi-instrumentalist Jermaine Butler, also known as Jermaine from the South, with a track titled Vi-Çila. And Jermaine is my guest this week. Let's return to our conversation as we discuss his work in hip-hop. Jermaine, you mentioned your debut album, The South, and I want to ask you about that record. Hip-hop is a big part of your work in music. The South features an incredible collection of beats you created, most of which are hip-hop. The album ends with a great drum and bass track, but the majority of the album is hip-hop. Tell me about the role of hip-hop in your music making and in your life.
Oh, man. It's, I think all of that really goes back to one of my neighborhood friends, a guy named Patrick Galloway, who's like a beat maker. Just sort of a producer who's just like he's one of those people that just makes so many good beats all the time. It's making so much good music, but he just never releases anything. It's just kind of just his own thing. And so I think it was in high school that he introduced me. He gave me that Mad Villainy album with MF Doom and Madlib. And the first time I listened to it, I honestly didn't like it. It was too much. It was too much happening for me. I didn't understand it in the beginning, but I listened to it some more, and then I was just like, this is incredible. Like this is the future of hip hop. This is like, really pushing it. But like Mad Villainy was just like such an incredible album for me. And he, like, since those like early days, he was into like, production, and like he had some samplers and stuff at his house. He had all the records and stuff, and so he's the one who got me into that world. Like I think he had one of these SP303s at the time, and so like I learned how to like sample and stuff from him on an SP303, which is why I love have that. One of these.
You've got the hardware. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, gotta have the hardware. Always gotta have the hardware. And I feel like what I'm looking for as far as like making beats, I feel like that's gonna be a lot different from other people, even like, those people that I look up to, because at the beginning of the day, like I am a bass player and then a drummer, like those two things. And so whenever I'm looking for stuff to sample, I'm always looking for something, for the most part, that doesn't have any drums on it and that doesn't have any bass on it. Cause like, I know I want to do my own thing. If it does have drums or bass, if it has bass, I'm going to just like, EQ the bass out of it. So it's just high end. So I'm usually looking for like weird sounds or like a lot of high end stuff that I can really, just sort of make my own world with. Hip hop seems like to be the best way for me to express myself, especially like musically, just by myself, without like a full band and things like that. So yeah, I think that's why I gravitated towards that.
Yeah, the way you integrate samples with live instrumentation on the album is really well done. It's totally seamless. It's hard to tell what is what. And when you do use samples, you really flip them in a way that is unexpected. And there was a track I wanted to ask you about, Palmetto, which uses I think it's a sample of a Scott Joplin piano roll. It's one of his most famous works, The Entertainer. But you've taken a part of the song that most people probably don't even notice and just flipped it in this totally unique way. Tell me about that track. And
I'm so happy that you asked about that. That's so good. So our girl Nia Iman Smith, shout out, always and forever. We were in a class together about I think with issues in Black music with a professor here, Dr. Tyrone Cooper.
Oh yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So we're in that class together, and I think someone was doing a presentation or something. Or actually, it might have been me whenever I had to do a presentation in there. And so I was looking up all this, music by these, older composers and stuff, and that's whenever I was listening to that song, The Entertainer, and I had never heard the introduction to that song before. Actually, no, it wasn't me. It was somebody else in class, I remember. So they played during their presentation in class, and then it started. I was just like, what? I was like, wait, what's happening? I was like, this is the intro for that, like, It's like, this is the intro for that song? I was just like, that's incredible. I was just like, at that moment too, like, there's like a few times, like maybe like once or twice whenever I'm just like in the world, but like I'll hear something and then like the complete sound of a song comes to me. And like during that moment, whenever I heard that, I was just like, I already know what drums need to go in there. I already know like what needs to happen with that piano. Like it was a full thing. So like I came home, I went to the record store to see if they had any Scott Joplin records there. They did not. I couldn't find the vinyl anywhere, but I found it on Discogs. They had one in Germany. So I had to get it shipped from there. And so that's when the record finally came in. And then, I finally had a little bit of free time afterwards. And then that track just came together so quickly.
You mentioned the future of your music making, and earlier in the interview, you mentioned rapping in Louisiana Creole. This is something you're working on for an upcoming release, right? A project fully done rapping in Creole. Tell me about that. That is unique, right? I was trying to think if there's, obviously there's rappers from Haiti and Vi-Çila that have rapped in Haitian Creole, but I was trying to think of a rapper from the South or Louisiana that's rapped in Louisiana Creole, and I couldn't think of anybody. Tell me about
None
this.
of them. Yeah. It was, I feel like it's a crazy thing that I've stumbled upon, where, yes, not to brag, but I think I am the first one that is rapping in Louisiana Creole. Which is just sort of like a cool thing that like I didn't set out, I wasn't like, I want to be the first person to rap in Louisiana Creole. I think at this point in time, it's very much long overdue. Somebody should have been doing it a long time ago.
Mon conseiller tombe, mon mouet comme allé dans l'ouragan. Aussi vite il touche la terre aux blancs, il mini marron. Un gros l'applique à effacer tout coulé dans mon lavis. Jusqu'à mon waïk noir et blanc, la main mêlée pour fait gris. Mais gris ça l'a commencé d'éteindre en musique. Mon cas sont différents.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like I've always been a language nerd, which is how I ended up here doing Arabic, Persian, Hindi, Urdu, any number of things, a little bit of French here and there, and like, other random languages. And so whenever I honestly didn't even really discover this existence of Louisiana Creole until like maybe about 2 years or so ago. Like in my mind, like Louisiana Creole and Louisiana French or Cajun French, they were all just like different words for this one thing. And it wasn't until like I started doing a little bit more research where I was just like, oh, like this is a completely different language that, even though it developed alongside Louisiana French, it's its own thing enough to where like it's considered its own language, even though they're like sister languages. They grew up together, a lot of shared vocabulary and things like that. But the grammar and everything is different enough where it's its own thing. And so like growing up in Southern Louisiana within, just local Creole culture, that's always been like an important, I guess, like backdrop for my life that like was never in the foreground for me.
Si toi t'es un fiffolé, tout c'est n'ayez moins. Oh, mais montrez-moi tout qui chole, les autres t'es péché moins. Tout c'est menez-moi d'un bois et jouez moi comme chien. Oh, ben quittez-moi voler, avec toi poli mes chemins. Si toi t'es un rougarou, tout c'est fond mon cou. Et quittez-moi tout sont coulés, tout dit l'on paillou. Pour nourrir tout y bétaillé, à péfiler bâtard. Ou quittez-moi échapper parce que toi t'es un poids mon char.
And so once I find out about this language and then like, how it's endangered, less than 10,000 speakers and all this stuff, I was like, oh, it's like absolutely not. No, it's like this can't do. We gotta do more for this. And so that's whenever like I just started getting into learning Louisiana Creole last year, like a little under a year ago. So it was like a super new thing for me. I had no intentions of doing any sort of music or anything. I was never trying to get on anybody's microphone. I just wanted to play my bass, play some drums, just sort of jam out and have a good time. But every October is Creole Heritage Month, like International Creole Heritage Month. And so like it was like late August and I had like a few some like musical ideas and some beats over the past few months that I've been working on for like some sort of upcoming release. I wasn't sure what it was going to be. And I was just like, man, like it would be like a cool little, I don't know, just like idea to like maybe try and write a couple of verses in Creole just to see like what I can come up with, what that would sound like. And so yeah, I did that, and then like I released that first one like the first week of Creole Heritage Month, first week of October. And then just the response for that was just so much further beyond anything I had ever released in my entire life, you know, especially like from any of my solo stuff.
Et mon pas gain à rien passé un miraille vide. Peut-être nous qu'a dit mon pas planté en tombant la ligne. Ou peut-être mon grenier t'es déjà pourri. Et puis n'importe qui chose m'en t'es planté c'est sorti mourir. Saisonnier change, plein charge et range. Madame montrez-moi ça, mon pas quoi jusqu'à celle-là. Peut-être c'est pas vrai parce qu'ils m'ont trouvé une nouvelle saison. Aïe soleil là a toujours brillé en mon la maison. Et puis est comme si elle gagne un petit brin de ouage. C'est juste l'ombrage, ça fait faut pas dire c'est dommage.
During that time period when I started learning Creole, I started to search for a lot more music in Louisiana Creole, and like really all you can find is Zydeco and like maybe some Cajun music and like maybe some really, really old jazz stuff from like, I don't know, the 30s, 20s, 40s. And that's it. Like it really, people haven't really used the language in sort of like a creative sense beyond those genres. And so at the moment I was like, we really should be using this more. And it definitely needs to be in rap because I feel like it lends itself very well, more so honestly than French. Just with the sounds of Creole, the way that those sounds have changed from French, it flows better for me whenever you're rapping. But I'd love to see it in rock music. I'd love to see it in some R&B music. And like, I'm definitely going to be pushing a lot of my friends back home to like try and help them out with that. I'm trying to get everybody doing music in Creole because like, it shouldn't just be me because people do want to hear music in Louisiana Creole. And so since my girlfriend, she studies Martinican popular music, whenever I went to go visit her, when she was doing field work out there once in Martinique, that was like another eye-opening experience, you know, about this other Creole world. It's like an alternate universe where, you know, Creole, the language was still a central part of people's daily lives, unlike in Louisiana. And so like, you know, getting to meet those people and then also like her sharing my stuff and sort of like connecting with rappers in Martinique and like other musicians in Martinique who share the stuff, like it's bringing this larger Creole world back together again, which is another thing I'd love to, you know, I want Guyana, Martinique, Guadeloupe, Haiti, all of us, you know, to come together to make Creole great again. So I was telling my friends the other day, I'd love to work with more artists from all those different places.
Jermaine, before we go today, I want to ask about your future in Indiana. Bloomington has had a big place in your life, right?
It has.
Is this a place you see in your future? Do you see yourself continuing to be based out of Indiana and Bloomington, looking ahead?
No. Well, this is the thing. It's like, I don't think, like I was saying, with the trajectory that this music is taking, I don't think it makes that much sense to stay. You know, I'm just like, you know, I really want to start the Louisiana Creole Renaissance. Mm-hmm. Let me do that from Evansville, you know, or from maybe, you know, maybe I don't know, one of the French cities, maybe Vincennes or Terre Haute. Yeah. One of those, maybe that would make more sense. But no, so it's one of those things that like Bloomington has been an incredible place for me to live and to create. To meet other musicians, some people like you know, we're doing this incredible work. People like Nia. And so like I will always be indebted to Bloomington. The people here have always showed me so much love for the music. And so like, you know, no matter what, like there's always going to be a Bloomington stop. I know a lot of bands like, you know, they don't usually, bigger bands at least, they don't like, you know, they'll hit Indy maybe, but they're not coming through Bloomington. I'll definitely always be coming through Bloomington. But I don't think, as soon as my girlfriend finishes her PhD, I think we're probably going to be out just because, we could end up in Louisiana. She's from Quebec. We could end up in Quebec. We might end up in the Caribbean, in Martinique. Who knows? But Bloomington will always be special for me.
Yeah.
Indiana as well. Go Hoosiers.
Yeah. That was probably a stupid question. This would be the
last
place to lead the Creole Revolution. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No. But I mean, look, it has to start somewhere, and it's starting in Bloomington, Indiana. Which it's not a stupid question because, like I said, the Creole Institute here at Indiana University has done incredible work for Haitian Creole, Louisiana Creole, probably more so than any other, like outside of Louisiana, like, Tulane or University of ULL and Lafayette. Indiana University has been putting in work for Louisiana Creole. We met with one of the professors over here like about a month or two ago. This guy, Kevin Rote, who was one of the co-authors on the Dictionary of Louisiana Creole. He's still a professor over here. Incredible collection of Louisiana Creole resources, like things that I would, could never find anywhere. Those things are here in Bloomington, Indiana. Not to mention the archives that we have here. Archives of Louisiana Creole speakers from 1930s and possibly even earlier that we don't even have in Louisiana, which is insane. Yeah. It's in southern Indiana. So I mean, like it's honestly it's an important place for Louisiana Creole, and I'm very lucky to be here and to still have access to those things, those sort of resources, those people, those archives, and it's been very helpful, to keep it going. So yeah, this is where it all comes back to, Bloomington, Indiana. At the end of the day.
I love how you find all those connections, like you were talking about Lebanese tea in New Orleans earlier.
Yeah.
Bloomington being maybe one of the most significant archives of Creole culture outside of Louisiana. Who knows?
It's crazy. Yeah, it's actually insane. Yeah, it's true, though.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I know I've kept you for a while today, Jermaine.
Oh,
I can't thank you enough
all.
For doing this. I'm a huge fan of your music and can't wait to hear what you have coming up next. And appreciate you taking time to do this.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Of course.
Yeah, merci.
Yeah, thank you. We've been listening back to my recent conversation with Jermaine Butler, also known as Jermaine from the South. We have time for one more track from his debut album titled The South. This is Gerba.
There will be dancing tonight, and in my brimming heart, plenty of love and laughter. Oh, I got tired of the cold northern sun, of white, anxious, ghost-like faces, of crouching over heatless fires in my lonely bedroom. The only thing I never tired of was the persistent kindness of you too few unafraid of my grave. Dusky strangeness. So I came back.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. That was Jermaine Butler, also known as Jermaine from the South, with Gerba, off his debut album titled The South. And that's all the time we have for this week. If you appreciate the arts and culture programming you hear on this station, please consider making a donation now at WFYI.org/give. And check out the Cultural Manifesto podcast at WFYI.org. Cultural Manifesto is hosted and produced by me, Kyle Long. Our podcast is edited by Holly Summers, and our radio director at WFYI is Roxana Caldwell. Thank you for listening.